and to running. Apparently, she still has the company going. So and
really? I was wondering about that, but wow.
Yeah, and she said even to to running the business. So I know John was down like 1 or 2 employees. I know he was leading it down because times were getting tough, but I guess she kept it going. And it's and it's the same thing. You don't realize what you don't know until you find out you don't know it.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like I said, when my dad had passed, he literally had. I mean, there's a book on the bookshelf, and it says the things that you need to know. And
right.
Like I said, when somebody asks a question, you just go over and open it up, and there's an answer. I'm dumbfounded after all this time that he was able to plan that far ahead or think that much out or whatever. Like I said, I'm it's just dumbfounded.
I tell you, I thought of doing something like that myself a while ago, and it was like I was thinking about doing it like in like a format of like the Yellow Pages or an encyclopedia, because you can't just throw stuff out there, because after a while it gets lost. So it's got to be categorized and almost alphabetized, so you could look something up,
Yeah.
And my one daughter had told me that a few years ago. She goes, "Dad, you know a lot of stuff that like we don't know." I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course I do." She goes, "But you know stuff that other people don't know too." I said, "Yeah, well, that's true." I said, "And now that's why I surround myself with people who know more than me, because I like to learn." And she says, "You got to write all this stuff down. You need to take like everything in your brain and write it down." I said, "Oh, that sounds really easy. How do you?"
It takes a lot of time.
I said, "Now, how do you expect that I do that?" And she goes, "I don't know, but you have to figure out a way." And again, it ties into what I was saying. It's like you can just I kept saying I should just start jotting down things about stuff, but and then a lot of it really wouldn't make sense to anybody but me, in the long run.
Oh, I know. Well, like I said, I've written stuff down, and it's even funny because sometimes you go back and look at it and you're saying, what the hell was I trying to say?
There's remember I told you it was about a month ago. I went to I went to a friend, guys. He was a friend of the show. Him and his wife were friends of the radio show, and he had passed away. So the wife had invited me to her the celebration they had up in Glen Cove, where they shot him out of a cannon and up in rockets. Well, she just sends me a text the other day, and she said she was going through some of her husband's stuff, and she said, "I've been very hesitant to do this. I didn't want to do it." She goes, "I was afraid of what I don't know if I was afraid of what I might find or whatever." And what she did find was a note. I will, let's see. Let me find it here. It's really pretty heartwarming. How far back do I got to go here? It's amazing how many freaking texts you get. Come on. I don't think I saved it. But yeah, here it is. Okay. So, okay. She found this in one of his drawers. And it's on a piece of notepaper. Same note. I have this notepaper. It's from like the St. Jude's. So it says, "To my beautiful wife, for your loyal support, for always having my back and bringing us luck. After almost 40 years at this game, it's about time for me to say thank you." I guess he knew he was probably terminal. He was on the way out at this point. "It never would have happened without you. Love, Rusty." So I said, "Listen, you're lucky." I said, "You just got a gift. You got a gift from the afterlife. He left you a note and you found it." I said, "There may be more. You never know." That was a real nice thing for him to do. Yeah. So, there's a lot of ways of doing it, I guess. And I told her, I said, what I started doing is a couple of years ago, actually during COVID, I was listening to a lot more of my albums and buying more albums. I shoot and pool. And I say, hey, well, I bought this album, the original one, back in 72 or 74. And I liked it then and I liked it now. So I just took a post-it note and I'd write that. I bought this original album in this year, whenever I was in high school, whenever. And I really like just something about the band, just like whatever came to my mind. And I made sure I dated it and I put it inside the album. And I told my kids about this. I said, I started leaving notes in some of my albums. I said, and you wouldn't know unless you take it out to play, because some of them, I didn't just put them on the front. I said, either you'll find it someday, or someone who gets these things will find it and wonder who the hell was this nut writing notes. I said, it'll be cool because they're dated, so they'll be old. Hopefully they'll be old. And again, just little time capsules. Little time capsules.
That's well, like I said, it's very I think it should be done more, personally, because like I said, when that person's gone, we all know it. We've all had it. When that person's gone, that you miss. There's certain parts that you miss, or there's certain parts that you wish you still had. So,
that's one reason why I started my YouTube channel. This way, when I'm gone, those videos will still be there. And when the kids go, "How did Dad clean the pool?" I have a video of it, how I clean the pool.
Yeah.
So they can go check it out, how to clean the pool. How did he build this thing? I'm like, there you go. It's right there.
I didn't get that small, but I have a hard drive next to me here of like every radio show I've done in 20 years. So like, who the hell's ever going to want to go through 20 years? I don't know. Hopefully even more, but they're all there, and then I have files. I got paper files that catalog everything about the shows. And,
that was like, there was a guy, his name was Ron. I can't think of his last name, but he was a Ford diesel mechanic, and he had a YouTube channel. And when he passed, that was one of the things that I was happy. I mean, he's very knowledgeable, a good diesel mechanic. And that was one of the things that, his family talked about, was either pulling it down or keep them there. And I'm glad they did, because like I said, his knowledge and fixing, and he was, one of his things that he had was, hey, here's my number. Call me if you have a problem. And that was another thing, you call him or text him, and, he'd answer you back and, help you. I mean, it was just a really, I was, glad that they were able to keep that. And of course, the way today is, and the way the media and everybody can have some form of, if it's on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. I mean, there's so much of that media or information. I guess that's part of when AI takes over, right? I mean, they're all going to learn, and we'll all still be. We'll all still get our credit card bills to pay, even though we're not here. So
very true.
I'm eating some pistachio ice cream, kind of in spirit of John.
Oh, very good.
I know he was all like whatever ice creams and all that kind of stuff. So.
Marino's Italian ices.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, I'm back in Mustang hell as of today. Yeah, I got pulled off the 442 and I'm back on the Mustang. And I tell you, I had to call the owner, because this is the car that he did the conversion to 4-wheel disc brakes. Of course, he went to CJ Pony Parts and got their booster and master kit and proportioning valve. So he put the proportioning valve on the firewall, not under the master or in the regular location. So I was going to bleed the brakes today. So I actually like to always start on a fresh system with a reverse bleed, going from the wheels up, because air likes to rise in fluid, and it's usually an easier bleed. Well, did that, got fluid up into the master, found a couple little leaks along the way, tightened those up, and had no pedal whatsoever. So I put the pressure bleeder on it, ran that for a while, no pedal. Then I was going to start doing a manual bleed. Then I started thinking. I said, something's not right here. Something's not right. So I pulled the master, and I bench bled it again because I know that hadn't been done. And then I'm looking in, and I always question the rod lengths.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this little tiny stubby rod in the front of this booster, and when I pushed the brake pedal, the rod came maybe just a little bit out of the booster, and I said, "That's not enough. That can't be enough, even though the Master fits into the booster." So I went under the dash. Oh my God, this is what I hate about those cars, because the freaking rust that comes down on you is it's like rain. And I took the rod off the pedal and checked, and that's adjustable. It's threaded. I mean, I was able to make it maybe a 1/4 inch longer than its shortest, and then it, it unthreads itself. So I jammed out of that. Still nothing. Now I'm thinking that the rod, it's either a bad master cylinder, because I have pedal travel. If I push the pedal all the way to the floor, I can grab the discs. I can grab the hubs and just spin them. There's no pressure at the wheels. And then I started thinking about that front rod. So I pulled the master again, and I had another guy in the shop push the brake pedal down so the rod would come forward. And it's just a little rounded end, like an acorn nut, and a 7mm nut. So I loosened the nut and I threaded the front piece of that rod out. The whole thing was about a 1/4 inch long. That's the adjustable rod, a 1/4 inch. So I got it as long as I could get it and put the jab nut back on, put the master back on, and of course, no brakes. So I called the owner and I said to him, "Listen, call CJ Pony Parts, see if they've had any complaints or issues." I said, "A lot of times the place won't call you, but if you call them and tell them about it, they'll service you." I said, and I'm thinking, that we need some sort of a longer rod. So he's finding links to Willwood rods and all this. I said, don't go just shooting a wad. Go right to the source first. Do me a favor, call them. And then I remembered that just a little while ago, I bought that tool that's shaped like an H. I showed it to you, that you can put it onto a booster and measure the rod, and then you can measure the depth of the master cylinder so you know how long of a rod you need. And we all lose stuff. But I know when I got this thing, I said, okay, as soon as I put this somewhere, I'm going to lose it. Because where am I going to put this?
It was a go with, yeah.
The only place that makes sense is I have to check my toolbox in the garage in the drawer where I have some of my brake tools. If I didn't put it there, I'm an idiot, and I don't know where it is.
So you should have tried it, because I think I remember reading something. You should have taken the brake booster off and just put the master cylinder on and see if it worked, because you eliminate the length.
All right, I couldn't do that, and the reason is the booster. He had to get these 2 brackets that went on there was 4 holes that the brackets go on with. The brackets have 4 holes, and the booster has 4 studs, but the master only has 2 holes.
Yeah,
side by side, so it wouldn't work. I
remember reading something about having, because even I think sometimes, or some people get into they will have they put the power brake booster on, and the master cylinder is not for a power brake booster. It's still a manual brake, a master cylinder. They're designed or built different because of pressure. Like the 1 inch cup or 1.5 inch cup or whatever. And some guys try to use them when they're not.
I will say this: he bought it as a kit. I have the paperwork upstairs. He did buy it as a complete kit through CJ Pony Parts, and they sent him the booster with the rods, the master, the proportioning valve, and that's the other thing. I started looking at the proportioning valve, and I asked him, I said, where did you get the schematic to run these lines, to know where they go? Because I thought of the 66 I worked on that had 3 wheels on one circuit and 1 wheel on the other. And I'm kind of questioning 2 of his connectors the one that goes to the rear wheels and one that goes to a front wheel. But regardless, even if he had them reversed like the other car did, I would have pressure at the wheels.
Right. Well, I do know with the CJ Ponies company, they do have a YouTube channel where they show those kits and then have them installed. They show them installed. It's actually on their YouTube channel.
I have to look at that then.
So they do, because I remember they had, I was watching one with the adjustable portioning valve, and they had a schematic on how to lay it out or something like that. Most people put them inside the car, put them underneath the dash so they can turn it or adjust it instead of outside, or they put it in that one corner.
Okay, if I said it, this is an adjustable. This is the fixed one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just like the guy had on the 66.
Yeah, okay, yeah. They normally put them up underneath the master cylinder down in that.
Yeah, and even that,
kind of a pain in the ass where they put it.
Well, even this one, yeah, they lay it down right under the master.
That's factory. That's where they go originally.
Well, the 66 that I worked on a couple of years ago now, that was on the body, kind of like behind where the hood hinge was. Remember, I told you that one was like kind of hidden in that corner.
Yeah, but it's in that side with the master cylinder down low. It's kind of
it was all actually to the side, like, so it would be to the left of it, like inside the fender. Or, well, it's not the fender, it's the inner structure, like the shock tower where the body cuts down after the shock tower. It was up in there.
Yeah.
And I tell you, from above the car, you'd have to lean and go under the hood hinge to get to it, which is ridiculous. And from under the car, you're fighting the steering column, and you're fighting any other kind of linkage.
Yeah, if you have a manual, you're fighting the Z bar across there too, because it's right in that same area.
So luckily that car was automatic, and I was able to switch the lines in the car. Don't ask me how, but I was. So this one, he put it right front and center, square, right on the firewall, like right behind the carburetor. Okay, good place. It's not a problem. The only thing that I might have a problem with is I didn't look really closely. It's either at the same level, or it might be a little bit higher than the master. It shouldn't be.
No,
the master should be the highest thing in the system.
So you might run in, because I think if I remember correctly, those you have to change. He's going to have brake light switch problems because they have a pressure switch on it or something.
It does have a pressure switch built into the proportioning valve. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I know some of the aftermarket ones don't, and then they have brake light switch lighting problems.
Well, I'll tell you this. After looking under the dashboard of this car,
that's the least of his problems.
Yeah, it's the least of his problem. I told him, I said, nothing's going to work in this car. And the guy is like so anxious. Like, I showed him under the hood. I said, look at this alternator wiring. I said, if you take it and bend it, it'll crack. The Ford, for some reason, when Fords don't age well, they don't. I said, the insulation will just crack. So he said, oh, well, should I just order a whole harness for the car? I'll go to Painless and order a harness for the engine compartment. I was like, no, wait, let's wait. Let's make sure everything runs and goes good first. Then I told him when I was doing the key, I had to pull the cluster out. And I said, look at it under here. I mean, there's like spaghetti. There's wires that are just hanging that are like no termination. There's other wires that have masking tape wrapped around them. Some of them have electrical tape wrapped around them. I said, nothing in here is going to work. So he says, oh, why don't I go order? And he pulls it up on his phone. Why don't I order this digital dash and the whole harness for Painless? And I was like, no, just wait on that. Like, because no, that means I got to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. It's like the whole car really needs to be taken apart and redone from scratch, and that's not going to happen. At least not on my watch. It's not.
How's the body on it? Is the body okay?
The thing is, it doesn't look bad. It's in prime. It's had some body repair. You could see some of it. Problem was, it was sitting down in Arkansas in on a field, because the whole bottom of the car is like Arkansas mud. I said, somebody should have at least pressure washed this thing.
Yeah.
You know, I found this big mud gobber up under when I was laying under the dash today. I found this big ball of mud hanging up there by the gas pedal, and I don't know what the hell that was. So, and then the vent over on the left side of the passenger compartment, I kind of grabbed it to give you a little bit of leverage, and like half of it pulled down, and rust was falling all over me. It's like car's falling.
Yeah, that box. I told you that box is the heart of that thing, and he's in a world of
I know.
He's in a world because that unfortunately that air box is a structural center of the car,
and I was able to see up high where it met with like the bottom of the dash, and I saw the rust that was up there, and I showed it to him. I said, there's the problem. I said, the car doesn't look bad otherwise. I said, but underneath, it's a problem. So,
and
like I said, that car would have to come. That would have to be like the '69 that Mike did, where he totally took that car apart, and every step of the way, everything they took apart to fix, they found 2 or 3 more things that they didn't know about.
Yeah,
and they just kept going and fixing it. So his car now is nice, but
I mean, like I said, it is fixable, but it again, there's just so much involved with that, and it wasn't until 67, 68, I think that front cowl piece you could actually take off, where before on the 65, 66, that's all solid. That you're cutting that all apart and then welding it back together. I mean, it's extensive work. I mean, it's not just
that's not a weekend in the driveway.
Yeah, no. And some guys try, and like I said, I've seen guys cut that and then pry that thing up, and that front valance, they pry that up, and they're doing all the work, and they're pouring every type of sealant, Bonda, they're just fiberglass, trying to seal that all up, and then bending the metal back down and trying to weld it all back together. It's right. It takes a lot of artwork to do that, and no doubt. Again, that's just a major structural part of the car.
Oh,
a lot of guys. I think it was Ring Brothers, or I think even Foose did one where they eliminate all that, because once they put a vintage AC, what is that company, Vintage AC?
Yeah.
When they put one of those in, you no longer need that fresh air box up there. Okay. I'm glad they were pretty excited on that.
Yeah, the kids are
that's you?
But but they, like I said, if you put a vintage air in, you cut all that out, and you can seal it up, and it'll never be a problem again. And of course, you're using the vintage air for between the fresh air and AC and heat and all that stuff.
Well, that's what Mike said to me today. He was looking at the car, and he said, "This car's got AC." I said, "Yeah, there's the AC compressor." And he pointed on the right side. He says, "Well, where's the?" I said, "Oh, the evaporator box." I said, "It doesn't have one. It was dealer installed, so it's got that little suitcase under the dash, which is the evaporator. It's everything." So, but even to put vintage AC in that car, I mean, all that stuff, I couldn't have that be my car and be happy leaving all that stuff in the condition that it's in. It just...
Yeah. Well, that's why most guys, when they put the vintage in, they end up cutting all that stuff out. That's why sometimes it's kind of funny when you see when you see a car that's been done like that at a car show, and you walk by and you look at it and you're like, something's different, because it doesn't have the vents in the grill by the windshield. It doesn't have, it's solid.
Yeah.
And you look at it, and sometimes it, pops right in, or all of a sudden you realize, or it's like you walk by 3 times, like, why does this hood look so long?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have the vents in it, So, that type of stuff. Or even then, some of those guys take all that stuff out and they'll move the motor back. For
Okay.
they have that extra room. Because then you can move the motor back and get the weight or the geometry of whatever you're trying to do
Yeah.
down. So
Yeah.
I was pretty lucky with mine. Mine's, of course, it. I'm mine was done once before when I got mine, and then of course, as long as I've owned my car, it's always been in a garage.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's never sat out in the weather
I tell you,
or aged.
to find. I mean, I've just been calling them mid-year Mustangs. I don't know if that's right or not. I don't know if it's a correct term, but that's what I call them. But those mid-year Mustangs, I realized to find a clean one is like a unicorn.
Yeah,
I mean, clean inside and out. Like that structural stuff is, and even it's like he was telling me one of the first things I noticed when I looked at this car, months ago. I looked under the hood and I saw all the new brake work. I said, "Okay, nice. You did all that stuff yourself." Yeah, I said, "You know what? The booster's upside down." He's what? And I said, "Yeah." So he goes, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, because the valve for the hose is on the bottom. It's supposed to be on the top." I said, "I've never seen one on the bottom." And I said, "And I believe it's because it's vacuum. You don't want moisture falls, so you want it above a moisture level." I said, "It's just kind of basic physics."
yeah,
I said, "Now, I could be wrong." I said, "But I've never seen one on the bottom. Maybe I'm wrong." And then when he gave me all the paperwork, yeah, I saw it. Of course, it goes on the top. And I
yeah,
think I said to him today, I said, "I think I know why you did that." And the reason is they talk about they refer to the master cylinder as a 1 bale wire or a 2 bale wire. Some of those masters had 2 wire clips that came up, one for the back, one for the front, and the other had one from the side. That's what they're calling a bale wire. So his is the 1 bale wire. And with once I switched the booster around, when you usually you snap that wire towards the engine, it hits right into the valve, right into the vent because it's a small booster. I said, maybe you did that and saw it hit and said, "Oh, well, that's not right." So instead of taking the wire off and turn it around so it goes the other way, you turn the booster around.
yeah.
He says, "I don't remember what I did." I said, "Whatever." I put it back.
It's hard to imagine, like you said, about moisture and condensation and stuff like that. We when I was at the Porsche Audi dealership, we used to have the problem where on a cold day you'd have a rock hard pedal, and what would happen is you would have moisture, and it would actually be water in the bottom of the brake booster,
Really?
and it would freeze. So it kept the diaphragm from moving.
Right.
And you get in the car and they'd have a rock hard pedal, and due to depending on how bad it was, they'd start it up and then they let the car run. Of course, the heat, and then they would have a brake pedal. So it was one of these things that would be like, hey, I had something kind of weird. I had a really hard pedal for the first couple times I tried to stop the car. The car stopped, but it was kind of hard,
Right.
And so it was funny. We would pop the vent out, the vacuum line. We'd pop that out, and we would take a wire tie and slide it down and pull it up. If it came up wet, you knew there was water in there, And then you went through, and we actually had. I can't remember. We routed. I think we rerouted the vacuum line or something, but we used the heat from the motor. We had and it would heat up, so that way it would be warm air, so you wouldn't have the condensation build up or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to go back and look. That was a long time ago, but it was just funny that something that you would never think that would have water in, or why it would have water.
Right.
But you had that on the Boxsters. We had the same thing with the door connectors, where where the wiring harness connected, because on those cars technically you would unpull the plug and then you could take the door off if you had to do anything with the window regulator or anything like that type thing. But it was so sealed that you'd have condensation in there, and it would actually eat the wire loom out.
Wow.
It would, have all kinds of corrosion. So we had to take the plug apart, and if it was rotted out, we had to change all the terminal ends. But if not, we had a special grease you packed in there, and we actually added a vent hose into the connector that we ran down through the bottom of the rocker, so that to drain any condensation that got in there. It's kind of weird, but you sealed it up so tight, or it had such a great connection that you end up creating another problem.
Yeah.
So
cars ain't perfect, that's for sure.
And sometimes you think you're going to make them better, and you make them worse, and then sometimes you're just better off leaving them alone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right.
Dad
Sometimes
says if it
trying
ain't
to
broken,
over-engineer.
Yep. Dad said if it ain't broken and making noise, keep driving. It'll break, or something else will.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the cars today. They have to really brake for them to stop, because now they get into limp mode, and people still drive them around.
We had a weird one. They had me check out an SUV today. The guy tagged somebody in the front right corner pretty good. They said it was a pretty good hit. So they changed the components, the parts, the front end stuff, whatever. And then we took it out for a drive. And even you put it in reverse, and the car didn't want to move. You had to give it some gas. It was almost like it didn't want to go. And put it in drive. You took off. So my buddy Ron says, "All right, let go of the gas." I let go of the gas, and the car stopped itself. I said, "Something is applying the brake." I said, "There's something applying the hydraulic system on the brake on this car." And we got it back in, and the right front wheel was almost smoking. So, and it was funny because the inside pad was maybe, I didn't measure it. The inside pad might have been 2 millimeters, and the outside pad was 6.
Oh.
And the inside of the rotor was scored. I said, something's been going on for a while here.
Yeah.
This caliper, something's up with this caliper. Yeah. And he thought maybe when the wheel was tucked, bashed up, maybe that caused I said, no. I said, it could be the hose could be bad. He goes, the hose looks fine. I said, hoses collapse on the inside.
Oh, they've never changed it?
Well, it's a brand new. No, they didn't change it through the.
So it got wrecked in the front, and it looks good. They think the hose was fine. Maybe it's actually collapsed inside.
That's what I told him. I said this hose could be collapsed on the inside. It looks fine on the outside.
Or like you said, one of the metal lines is slightly pinched and it's not releasing. Yeah. I mean, people overlook. I mean, like I said, you don't know if something bent just a little bit, and the lines keeping pressure.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll be back there tomorrow.
I wanted to talk to Ray. You drove that guy's Ford Maverick, right? And you're saying how good the brakes were.
Yeah.
I'm probably because with my electric car, I know it feels if I hit that thing stops really well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but it's not the brake calipers and the rotor. It's small. It's small on that car. That car is almost 3,000 pounds. So I'm like, I wonder what happened, because there's a neutral, right? So you can take it. I could put it in drive, which drives like a regular car. If I take my foot off the brake, the car starts moving. If I put it in low, it's 1 foot driving. If I take my foot off it's like a golf cart. If I take my foot off the gas, the car starts slowing down. I don't have to touch the brake, right? Because it's all the regenerative braking starts kicking in.
Right.
There's another mode to put it in neutral. And I read online, and people are like, yeah, check out your brakes when you do this. Because I'm stopping. I go, man, this thing stops great. And I'm thinking, I'm hitting the brake, and brakes are stopping it. No, it's probably 80% brake regen. Because I put it in neutral, I nailed the gas. I left plenty of room. I go hit the brakes. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this thing sucks. It would not stop.
Wow.
like stops with probably like double the feet that.
I didn't do any of those tests on the Maverick.
So I would be interested if the Maverick does it too. I don't know.
I kind of wanted to play around with it, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to mess it up, so I kind of just drove it nice. But I was amazed at how little gas it used, and just like I said, how the next vehicle I got in, I forget what it was. If I'd been my FJ, I was like, oh, almost because when you have a real responsive, touchy brake and you get used to it.
Yeah,
it's the worst thing in the world because no other car is going to feel like that.
Yeah, and what happens with me a lot of times, because I do one pedal driving all the time, and I'll just sit there, and then I also have a little paddle that gives more brake regen. So if I'm coming on a stoplight, I'll pull it, and it'll even slow you down more. So I don't even really have to touch the brake at all, unless I really have to get on the brake or really have to stop. So I don't use the brake too much. So but when I go in reverse, I usually don't have my foot on the brake, and the car starts moving. I'm like, oh crap! I got to step on the brake, but it won't stop. It does the opposite. It actually starts moving when you put it in reverse.
Right.
Instead of me having to hit the gas to make it move.
Right.
So I don't know how many times I just almost run somebody over. I mean, it's just I take my foot off the brake or just put it in reverse and it just starts moving. But it's really slow. It's not like it takes off. Right? But I say, oh crap! I shouldn't be moving.
Yeah,
I gotta remember to hit the brake.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's and then I go jump into some other car, and I'm like, oh shit. The first maybe like 2 stops, like, oh crap, panic stops because I'm like, oh, why is it not slowing down?
Yeah, it's like the worst you could do. And I don't know, my buddy Mike, he goes from car to car, or truck to truck. So I'm surprised that he does that seamlessly.
Yeah, but the Maverick, you probably have to. It's probably not one pedal driving, right? Yes, if you take your foot off the brake, the truck will start moving, right?
Yeah.
So that's I could sit there, take my foot off the brake, and the car would just sit there until I hit the gas, or the go pedal. It's just a.
That's like when Subaru had their anti-roll. That was kind of weird driving because, you're sitting there and you. I can't remember how it was. It was like pushed in the clutch.
Oh.
And then if you let the clutch out, that kept it from rolling.
It's funny you say that because as soon as I got in this SUV and it was in reverse, I said to him, if this feels like one of those anti-roll systems where it's going to electronically hold you until you want to go. And he says, no, it's not supposed to be that way, going forward. And it was the same thing. I said, yeah, it feels like it's, if I was on a hill, it'd be great,
Yeah.
Wasn't the wheel pulling remember one way? Wasn't the wheel pulling one way in that SUV?
You know what? Yeah, the steering wheel was all off, and when I did stop, it did tend to pull. It's got to go to an alignment shop. It needs other, it wasn't done, but they didn't want to send it out of the body shop until it was ready, for that, and it's not ready for that.
Yeah.
Boy, I wish you guys would have been around when I had my Maverick.
Really?
Oh yeah, lots of them. Listen to these brakes and that going. Well, shit, that sounds like one of the problems I had. Damn good little car. I got 20 miles a gallon.
Mavericks, yeah.
6-cylinder engine.
Yeah.
And automatic. It was great.
Yeah.
And, then I had to sell it because my wife didn't like how ugly it looked.
I thought, now, especially in retrospect, the Maverick was a damn good looking little car.
No, not you. I'm being.
It was a Mustang, right? Same chassis as the Mustang.
I think it's a little smaller.
Oh.
But the grabber Maverick was was a cool looking car with the twin fake hood scoops and the stripe package. It was a cool looking little car. Cool set of rocket mags on it. Away you go. Yeah.
Well, the car only weighed 2,000 pounds, and that's what a Volkswagen Beetle weight is 2,000 pounds, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it was just, but I never got any place that I could work on it because my ex-wife, who was doing everything, was spending all the money, so I couldn't play with it.
Right.
and I had to sell it when I moved. So, and I haven't seen another one like it since then.
Really?
Well, I just don't think out here on the eastern coast oh no, I don't know which coast am I on? West, sorry.
West.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
God, yes.
where are you today, Papa Squirrel? It looks like you're outside.
Yeah. I'm not sure where on Washington we are, but
Oh, Washington.
oh God, cut it out. Monroe, Washington.
Oh,
You
okay.
ain't my Aunt Melba. You don't need to tell me where I'm at like that. But there's
That's cool.
sometimes just some of those cars I just wished I could get back.
Yeah, we all do. We all have the ones that got away. That's always the case.
Yeah, not me. I just keep them all.
Yeah. Nice.
I had a 75 Cutlass in high school. That was my first car. Well, actually, so I did get rid of that car, but I upgraded to a 75 Hurst Olds. So it's kind of I get the same feeling when I'm in it.
Yeah.
Same.
And you upgraded.
Upgraded
And
I put it into the Hurst Olds. So
yeah,
it's kind of like the same car.
Yeah.
That thing hasn't moved, and I need to retire and be able to work on cars. That's what I need to do.
I wonder if the weather is an issue tonight. Lewis is in Ohio. You just broke up down in Florida. My daughter's back in North Carolina. She got stuck here for an extra day because the flights weren't leaving on Tuesday. Then it was a longer trip home. That trip's home, and they're out of power.
Dog, what are you even?
Heavy. They're getting slammed with the rain in North
Carolina.
Is it Debbie?
Debbie,
Yeah.
Yep. Debbie came over
Yeah,
here. Flooded everything.
Pouring. It's been pouring here.
It's coming up this way, but they say it's going to veer west, so it'll go Lewis's way.
We've been rained on. I'm so sick and tired of rain, dude. I'm so wet. I mean, if you're not sweating, you're getting rain on. I don't understand why we weren't reptiles instead of humans.
I'll tell you about a couple days I was at the shop earlier and it was just freaking hot as hell. At least today I was in there and I was sweating a little, but it was definitely noticeably cooler.
Yeah,
it wasn't as bad.
So now we had
the Spanish guys didn't even have the fans on. Yeah.
So with all that rain we had, all that rain we had down here, now it's all evaporating. I go outside, it's like 99% humidity.
Yeah.
Not raining, but it's just so humid out there. I'm like, holy cow. Like, I'm going back inside.
I know how good he is at gnawing through things.
Brian, don't you have relatives down here, Brian? Were they in Sarasota?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Because I saw a lot of flooding.
Down was that Lake Anna? No, Lake. What is that?
I don't know.
It's over there, Fort Myers. In between Fort Myers and it's over on the Gulf side.
Yeah,
I think it's Lake Anna. I think it's Lake Anna.
Anna?
I think that's what it is. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember.
Lake Anna, Florida.
Poor dog, you're starving.
Lake Anne Marie, DeBari? No, is that where?
I can't remember.
That's it. Yeah, that's south of me though. Yeah, that whole area got I have some high school friends. His whole house got flooded. He's in Sarasota. His whole house got flooded. Like, oh, that's
she's by Fort Myers and Sarasota or something like that.
Yeah.
Most, like I said, I tell you, man, it's everything's a mess, dude. I don't know, and I don't know how you're doing, but these insurance companies pulling out because of all kinds of stuff. California, Florida. I just got noticed that my insurance company is taking another direction with my businesses, and go find somebody else.
Jeez.
after over 20 years of dealing with somebody and paying all that money, and then they tell you we're restructuring, or because it's turbulent world that we live in, and hey, that's the risk, that's the business that you took, right? I mean, this is why you charge, and now they can walk
You're
away
supposed
like
to
that.
take the risk. You're supposed to take the risk. They're supposed to get all your money.
Yeah, they charge so much money, and then it's ridiculous.
And I'm just I'm at the, like I said, I got to stop talking. We're still live.
No, I'll tell you. I was going to say something. At the risk of not being able to enjoy any of this great stuff.
Yeah, censoring yourself.
Lewis wants to come in again. Okay. At the risk of not having to enjoy this great chat, I think we'll end the stream, and then we'll continue talking. So for Lewis Lee and the rest of the crowd.
Is Lewis trying to get in?
I just let him in, but he's not there yet. So
what the heck is that? OBJ something.
Yeah. So we'll let this. So we'll continue on.